is Overton's U.S. history students. I'm back after talking with you about the World War II in the Pacific Theater where my dad was stationed at Iwo Jima. This time we're going to talk about the European theater. So there were a lot of battles and events going on in Europe. We don't talk about Great Britain. The Battle of Britain was a huge strategy that was used by Churchill to have blackouts so that they didn't know where they were bombing. That was very smart. Italy, Mussolini, he's a fascist leader also, and he's taken Africa. A lot of battles were in Italy. But with the standards, we primarily focus on Berlin and the Battle of D-Day, okay? So D-Day is also known as Operation Overlord, and it's led by Dwight Eisenhower. And the purpose of it is to get as many Allied troops on shore of France, Normandy Beach, France, Omaha Beach in particular, is where they landed. They parachuted guys in. They landed in these amphibious boats that you saw in the video clip I asked you to look at, Saving Private Ryan. Okay, I know I got a couple of family friends that had a part in D-Day. The first one is my good friend Sandra's dad. I talk about all the time, Mr. Newsom. These amphibious boats were used, like you saw in the movie, to land the soldiers on the shores. And he was a farmer, you know, where I grew up was farming. So his job was to put whatever cover that they added on the carburetor to keep those carburetors dry, because it was a water and a land operation. That's what he did to get the soldiers on. Then a friend of mine that worked on our family, he did handiwork for our family. His name was Red. He was actually a soldier that landed at Normandy Beach. And when we asked about it, he pretty much described what you saw in Saving Private Ryan when the soldiers were drowning. He said when he first got off the boat, they didn't get him up close enough to shore like this one is depicting, but more like you saw in Saving Private Ryan, and he thought he was going to drown. And when we asked, were you scared? He's like, of course I was scared, but you didn't have time. You just had to shoot or be shot. And I was kind of lucky because there was something I could hide behind quickly. It's probably one of these things here. So anyway, all the soldiers that were drafted it was a huge draft in the United States. We did have some British, some Canadian soldiers, but all of them that were drafted were told by the president at the time to get their affairs in order, that many of them were not going to live, like at least half of them wouldn't, and the early soldiers especially did not. And but they were very successful, did take the beach. It took several days before they actually gained control of the beach. And then the goal was to penetrate onward into Berlin. These Zeppelin-type vehicles were used also for taking the beach. Okay, so the goal, like I said, ultimately was to take Normandy Beach and then to push onward towards Berlin. Russia was actually already closing in on Berlin. They surrounded them on the north and the east and south. They did not have the western front, okay? But eventually, Russia takes Berlin first. United States joins and meets them a couple of days later. They arrive, they find Hitler has committed suicide. Battle of Berlin, the big impact is that Germany is forced to surrender. Okay, so D-Day, huge turning point in the war. Operation Overlord is its nickname, but D-Day is what we call it. Heavy Allied resistance. Problem that they faced in once the guys got on shore, was to get these supplies over enemy lines. In the Pacific, you saw it was that jungle terrain, the distance, issue of refueling, getting soldiers in both the Pacific and the European theater is there. But in the Pacific, you've got like the climate spoiling the food. Here, it was getting them past those enemy lines more to keep refueling. All right. So again, I just discussed the Battle of Berlin. There you see how the Soviet forces had them surrounded. They had this group that was outside of the city to the south. It was the north and the east primarily that were invading. Then the United States swoops in from the west a couple of days later. And like I said, results in VE Day. Victory in Europe. The war is over in Europe. but World War II does not end. You can see it's still going on from this article here in Okinawa where my father was. The Japanese are refusing to surrender. So we'll look at that another time. I want to show you real quick the review questions so you can get those. I don't have them on a slide this time, but we're going to take a look at them right here. Okay, the important things for you to focus on this set of standards, 19C, let's see, 19B and C. All right, significance in D-Day, land as many troops as possible in Normandy Beach, France, and then push onward towards Berlin, capture Hitler, defeat the Germans. What's so significant about the fall of Berlin? That they are captured, okay? VE Day occurs. Hitler's right-hand man surrenders, and he commits suicide. Next YouTube lesson I have for you, we're going to focus on the importance of the home front, because this would have never been won with just these soldiers. Women and the African American have a big impact, and we're also going to look at President Roosevelt's 2 executive orders with interning the Japanese and with desegregating the defense. So thanks for tuning in for this lesson, guys. This is week 2 of digital learning. Hang in there. We got this. We're going to make it happen.